Veterans, listen, I've got to hit you with a hard truth right out the gate. Obesity is not a disability in the eyes of the VA. You could weigh 300 pounds, have a BMI off the charts, and the VA will still look at your claim and say, sorry, that's not rateable. Now, I know a lot of you already are shaking your heads. But doc, my weight came from my service, my injuries, my meds, my depression after deployment. They all piled on me and made me gain weight. Hell, I've lived some of that myself. But if you're filing your claim thinking you're going to get service connected just because you got obesity, you're walking into a trap. You're already losing, and here's where I'm going to ruffle a few feathers. Too many veterans have been told by buddies, VSOs, or even bad information floating around on either Facebook or Reddit subgroups that obesity is a disability. No, it's not. And if that's the hill you're going to try to climb, the VA is going to push it right back down every single time. But, and this is a big but, the VA's refusal to call obesity a disability is actually your secret weapon. Because while it won't ever be service-connected by itself, it can be one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal to connect the dots between your service injuries and the conditions that are wreaking havoc on your health today, such as sleep apnea, diabetes, heart disease, and joint degeneration. Obesity can be that missing link in the chain that ties it all back to your service. And here's the real kicker. Most veterans don't even know how to use it. They walk into the claims blind, take the VA's word as gospel, and walk out empty-handed. But I'm telling you right now, if you can flip the script and understand how to use obesity as an intermediate condition, you can win claims that the VA has been denying for years. Let me slow this down and really break it down, because this is where so many veterans get tripped up. The VA has very clear rules. Obesity by itself is not a rateable condition, period. You can't just file a claim for obesity and expect them to send you a check every month. Doesn't matter if you've gained 20 pounds, 80 pounds, or if your PT shirt is now doubling as a tent. It's not directly compensatable. And I know how unfair that feels, because weight gain after service is real. I've seen veterans come home ripped and in shape, then 5-10 years later, after injuries, surgeries, medications, and stress, they put on some serious weight. And it's not because they're lazy, it's because their bodies were beat up in service, their activity level dropped, their pain increased, their meds messed up their metabolism, and food became the one comfort that they had left. That's not a weakness. That's what we call human biology. But here's the key most veterans actually miss. Obesity can be used as what's called an intermediate step or an intermediate condition. Now, what does that mean in plain English? It means obesity might not get you rated directly, but if you can serve it as a bridge that connects your service-connected disability to another condition, think of it like a chain reaction. Say you've got a service-connected knee injury from your airborne school days. Because of that knee, you can't run anymore. You stop ruck marching, and then you start packing on some pounds. That weight gain will then lead to obesity, and it's that obesity that contributes to your sleep apnea, diabetes, hypertension, or maybe even heart disease. So the VA won't rate the obesity itself. They're always going to say, nope, sorry, that's just not a condition. But what they will recognize is the conditions it caused or aggravated. If you show the chain clearly, you can turn what the VA tries to dismiss into one of your strongest arguments. It's like dominoes. The first domino is your service-connected injury, the second is the weight gain, and the third is the secondary condition. The VA can't just look at domino number 3 and say, well, that's not service-connected, because if you show them the whole chain, they have to acknowledge how it all started in service. And here's something veterans don't realize. The VA has actually already admitted this. Court cases have already recognized obesity as an intermediate condition. This isn't just some loophole, it's been established. The problem is most veterans never argue it correctly, so the VA just rubber stamps it as a denial. Here's why this matters so much. If you don't understand how obesity works in the VA claims process, you're not just making a small mistake. You're potentially leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. Every single day, veterans walk into the claims process thinking, I'm obese, so that's my claim. And every single day, the VA stamps those same claims with a big, fat denied. Not because the veteran didn't serve, and not because the veteran isn't suffering, but because the argument was framed wrong from the start. But here's the flip side. When you flip the script and show the VA that obesity is the link between what happened in service and what you're dealing with today, you can suddenly unlock claims that would have otherwise been dead in the water. So think about it. Say you've got obstructive sleep apnea, and the VA keeps telling you it's because you're overweight. Or you develop diabetes or heart disease later in life. Or maybe your joints, such as your hips, knees, ankles, have been broken down under the extra weight. You never would have gained if you hadn't been injured in service to begin with. If you could show the chain that your service-connected back, knee, or PTSD meds led to that obesity, and that obesity caused or aggravated these other conditions, you could take a claim the VA has denied for years and finally get it granted. And the difference is life-changing. You might go from sitting at a 30% to jumping to a 70% or even 100%. That's not just numbers on paper. That's the difference between scraping by and having real financial security for you and your family. That's the difference between paying for your own CPAP machine or the VA being required to provide it. That's the difference between worrying about every single bill every month and finally having some breathing room. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin. If you ignore this, if you don't argue obesity correctly, you may never get those secondary conditions connected. And the VA will happily keep saying, sorry, denied, while you keep suffering from sleep apnea or high blood pressure or diabetes without the support you earned. And I'll be blunt. Meanwhile, the VA is saving money by not paying you the benefits you deserve. You see, every claim you lose is money the VA doesn't have to spend. So if you don't learn to play this game smart, you're the one who pays the price, not them. I had one veteran, we'll call him Mike, who came to us absolutely worn down. This guy had done everything right. He served hard, he got hurt, and he was already service-connected for his back pain. But he came to me after being denied for sleep apnea, not once, but twice. And the reason the VA gave it to him, they stamped the denial letter and basically said, you're obese, that's why you have sleep apnea. Imagine reading that after years of struggling. For Mike, it felt like a death sentence for his claim. He told me, hey doc, I guess I don't deserve it. Maybe it's my fault I got heavy. And I could hear the defeat in his voice. And that's what kills me about the VA system. Too many veterans internalize the blame when really it's not their fault. Here's what the VA didn't say, but what we helped Mike prove. His obesity wasn't just random. It wasn't because he was lazy. It was because of his service-connected back pain. He couldn't run anymore. He couldn't hit the gym. He couldn't even walk without pain. That inactivity caused his weight gain, and that weight gain made his apnea worse. So we connected the dots for him. We wrote the Nexus letter and showed the VA the chain they didn't want to see. And this time, he got service-connected. That's the difference between walking away with nothing, feeling like the system just kicked you while you were already down, versus walking away with the benefits you earned, the recognition you deserve, and the relief that comes with finally being heard. And listen, I'm not here to body shame anyone. Post-service bodies, yeah, sometimes they feel a whole lot closer to dad bods than deployment bods. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm not as hard as I once was. Time, injuries, and life after military have taken their toll. But here's the thing. The VA does not care if you've got abs or a dad bod. They don't care how you look in your uniform. What they care about is what's documented, what's linked, what's backed up with medical evidence. That's what wins claims, not how many sit-ups you can do today. All right, first piece of advice. And if you're watching this, grab a pen because this is one of the most important things you'll ever write down about VA claims. Obesity can never be service-connected on its own, but it can absolutely be the bridge that connects your service injuries to the conditions you're battling today. Think of it like building a bridge across a river. On one side, you've got your service-connected condition. Maybe it's a back injury, knee problems, or medications you've been taking for PTSD. On the other side, you've got conditions like sleep apnea, diabetes, or high blood pressure. Obesity is the bridge that links the two sides. Without it, the VA says no connection. With it, suddenly you have a clear path that ties everything together. Here's what you have to show the VA. Step 1, identify the service-connected condition that led to your weight gain. That might be a back injury or a knee injury that limited your movement, or it might be the side effects of medications like antidepressants. Step 2, you got to show how that weight gain directly contributed to or aggravated your other condition. Maybe your obesity worsened your sleep apnea, maybe it accelerated your hypertension, maybe it led to degenerative changes in your hips or ankles. And here's the real kicker. This isn't just some clever argument. It's been recognized in VA case law. The Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims has explicitly said that obesity can serve as an intermediate step. Lawyers and judges have been forced to acknowledge this. So if the courts recognize it, why wouldn't you use it? I tell veterans all the time, this rule is like having a secret weapon in your claims toolkit. The VA doesn't go out of their way to tell you about it, but once you understand it, you can connect conditions the VA has been denying for years. And hey, if this is hitting home for you right now, I want you to hit subscribe. This is exactly the kind of insider knowledge we break down every week, so don't miss it. Now, let's talk about your second weapon, medical evidence and nexus letters. The VA has a favorite phrase they love to hide behind. There is no evidence. If you've ever gotten a denial letter, chances are you've seen that line printed right there in black and white. It's their go-to move. Fine. If they want evidence, then give them evidence. Here's the truth. There are mountains of medical studies connecting obesity to secondary conditions, such as sleep apnea, diabetes, high blood pressure, degenerative joint disease, coronary artery disease, you name it. The medical literature is overflowing with this stuff. Obesity doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a domino that knocks over a lot of other health problems, and the science backs it up. But here's the part that makes or breaks your claim. Pairing that literature with a nexus letter written the right way. A nexus letter is not just any doctor's note. It has to be written by someone who understands how VA law works, who knows the phrase at least as likely as not, and who could connect the dots in a language the VA just can't ignore. When you walk in with medical studies plus a strong nexus letter, you put the VA in a corner. They can't just brush you off with, "There's no evidence," because now there is. You've forced them to confront the chain of causation. This is where most veterans lose their claims. They walk in arguing with feelings. And listen, I get it. You want to tell your story. You want to explain how your back injury made you gain weight and how that weight gain wrecks your health. And your story is important, but the VA doesn't rate stories. They rate evidence. The VA does not care how passionate you are or how frustrated you feel. They care about what's written, checked, or measurable, and that's it. That's where we come in. At Xterra Health, we help veterans build that evidence. We take your story, we match it with medical literature, and we tie it all together with a nexus letter written by providers who know exactly what the VA is looking for. It takes you from denied again to granted at last. Here's my third piece of advice. Don't let the VA gaslight you. One of the most common denial tactics I see is the VA blaming everything on obesity, like it's some kind of magic catch-all. They treat obesity like duct tape. Doesn't matter what's broken, slap obesity on it, call it fixed, and deny the claim. Got knee pain? Must be obesity. Got sleep apnea? Obesity. Hypertension? Yep, obesity again. It's like their favorite word. If they can pin it on obesity, they don't have to do the work of connecting it back to your service. But here's the reality they won't say out loud. Obesity doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It doesn't just magically land on you when you get your DD-214. It often comes straight out of service-connected problems. You blow out your back or knee in service, you can't exercise like you used to, and the weight starts to creep on. Say you get prescribed antidepressants or anxiety meds for your PTSD, and they slow your metabolism down, and boom, more weight gain. You're dealing with chronic pain and insomnia, so your body chemistry changes. You start to eat differently, you move less, and again, the weight starts to pile on. That's not some random coincidence. That's cause and effect. And if the VA tries to dismiss your claim by pointing at obesity like it's your fault, don't let them off the hook. Push back. Show them that your obesity was caused or aggravated by conditions that were already service-connected. And here's the critical reminder. You are not trying to prove that obesity itself is a disability. That is a losing argument. What you're proving is that obesity is the middle domino, the one that got tipped over because your service-connected condition and then went on to knock over every other domino in your health. Once you frame it that way, the VA can't just wave their hand and say, obesity, case closed. No, you've shown them the chain reaction. And once the chain is clear, the law says they have to follow it all the way through. And just so you know where I'm coming from, I'm Dr. Marshall Bahr. I'm an Army Ranger, a disabled combat veteran, and a physician. I've lived this, I've treated it, and I fought these battles for other veterans. And my mission is simple. Make sure you get every benefit you earned without the VA running circles around you. So let's end this. Obesity is not a disability. The VA will never rate it by itself. But here's the twist. It can absolutely be your secret weapon as an intermediate condition. If you use it the right way, it might be the missing link that ties your service injuries to the conditions you're battling today. It could be the key that takes your claim from a dead end to finally getting approved. But if you ignore this, if you let the VA keep blaming everything on obesity without pushing back, you could be stuck at the same rating for years, frustrated, denied, and watching benefits slip away that you've more than earned. I've seen too many veterans get trapped in that cycle, and I've seen the difference when they finally break out of it, when they reframe their claim, show obesity as the bridge, and finally get connected. That's the difference between struggling month to month and finally having stability for you and your family. Now, maybe you're listening to this and thinking, okay, doc, I get it about obesity, but what about PTSD? How do I actually get service connected for that? And that's the perfect question, because PTSD is one of the most misunderstood and most denied conditions in the VA system. Veterans get denied every single day because they don't know how to prove it the right way. So here's what I'm doing next. In the very next video, I'm going to walk you step by step through how to get service connected for PTSD. We're going to cut through the myths, the VA's games, and I'm going to show you exactly how to build the strongest case possible. So here's what we're going to do next. In the very next video, I'm going to walk you step by step on how to get service connected for PTSD. We're going to cut through the myths, the VA's games, and I'm going to show you exactly how to build the strongest case possible. So don't go anywhere. Click over to that video now, and let's keep fighting this fight together. I'll see you there. Xterra Health, service beyond self.